Hi guys. So last time I did one of these sort of rant or opinion videos, people tended to like it, so I figured I'd do another one, especially given there's a couple subjects that I do really want to give my opinion on. Starting off with this whole Google censorship issue that everybody is talking about, um, as well as the whole Project Veritas situation. So, and that's sort of what's bringing it to the forefront, right? And I want to start off by addressing Project Veritas. Actually, let me go back a second. Let's address Google. Back a couple years ago, I believe, and I will post these clips. I'll pin them in the top comment. Steve Pieczenik went on Alex Jones's show, right? State Department, Black Ops, Delta Force, Steve Pieczenik, right? The real deal. Went on Alex Jones's show and told Alex, this is the first time that he got censored, Alex, you will get your channel back. I work with people who dictate what goes on at Google. And he kind of proved that he did. I don't doubt the guy, because Alex did ultimately get his channel back when Steve said he was. Now, Steve also came on later and talked about how he works with the Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which is sort of like it's a newer agency, like Unit 8100 in Israel. So Steve claims that he works with these people who are behind all this censorship, ultimately. The people who are dictating what's going on at Google. And if you really think about Google, how would you manage a company like that? I believe that some agency would be managing that. Makes sense to me. So I want you to think about that. I mean, really think about that. You have this kosher-conservative, hardcore Trump supporter who is behind, very instrumental in Donald Trump getting elected, that is deeply associated with these people who are ultimately behind all this censorship. Isn't that strange to anybody? Isn't that strange to you? I mean, it's strange to me. These are things that I think about. So moving on from there into Project Veritas, which is bringing all this stuff to the forefront. Now, Project Veritas, in my opinion, is fake. It's fake. It's not real. Okay, that's always been my opinion on them. There's always been something extremely fishy about them. And I was saying that since 2017, and, you know, I have the tweets to prove that. And that was before, long before, these articles came out that show that Project Veritas is funded by people like Robert Schillman in the Jewish Federation of San Francisco, right? Also funding Canary Mission. Big red flag. Don't trust it. Sorry, don't trust it. There's a means to that end, right? Seriously, it's really that simple. It's like Sheldon Adelson with Trump. Well, you know, once you see that, it's like, well, I can't trust that. This guy isn't anti-establishment. He's bought out by the establishment, as Project Veritas is. And on top of that, when you watch those Project Veritas videos, are those the most incompetent people in the world? Like, are those people really that incompetent? I find that hard to believe. They sit there and they rant about how their main goal working at Google is censoring, and it's always Trump supporters. It's always, we're going after those Nazi Trump supporters. And they look directly in their hidden camera, right in their hidden camera, and just rant about this stuff. I believe those people are on the take. I do. I believe this is a psyop. I believe there's a deeper agenda going on here. And what does that get people to do, right? So why would you not support people who are being censored, right? Even if you disagree with them, well, they're in the same boat as you, because they're being censored and I'm being censored. With me, I would never support like a Millie Weaver or an InfoWars or any of these alt-right controlled opposition figures, even if they're being censored. I believe they should not be censored. There should be no censorship going on. That's my opinion on it. Right? I think it's ridiculous that they're censored, but I'll never promote them just because they're censored. I would never get involved in a class action lawsuit with them just because they're getting censored, because I believe that there is a much larger game plan going on here. And I think Project Veritas is demonstrating that by putting these Trump supporters at the forefront of censorship. It also legitimizes someone like Donald Trump. It also legitimizes someone like Donald Trump because they're the face of who's being censored. Alex Jones, the ultimate controlled opposition, is the face of who's being censored. So that's just my opinion on that situation. And going back to the Geospatial Intelligence Agency, who supposedly dictates to what goes on at Google, you have figures like Zachary Kwan, the anonymous InfoWars guy. Turns out that he's been working in Cyber for a long time. Working as a double agent with CARE. So that's a deeper layer to that as well. You have this conservative embedded in CARE, involved in the Fort Hood shooting, working with Voice of America. And also with him, he works with people like Alex Jones, obviously, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Louis Farrakhan. So he's just a good example of the dialectic, right? I mean, he's a really good example of that, where he's working with these people who never call out Israel, and then working with somebody like Louis Farrakhan, who calls out the Jews and Zionism and all that stuff. How does that work? What agenda is going on there, right? And ultimately, this is just furthering the Leninist strategy. This is pushing people in the left-right game. That's ultimately what they want, and they want to legitimize Trump for the Israeli bigger plan. He's got to be the anti-establishment person. And you got to be in that left-right game to believe that. And it's easy to believe that when the face of this censorship on the surface, right? On the surface, Silicon Valley is these SJW types, these transgenders, all that, bizarre stuff. The perfect counterpart to, your magatard type. The perfect counterpart to it. So it appears on the surface to be this left-right game, and everybody who's nationalistic or conservative needs to team up to defeat this censorship. Is Donald Trump going to do that for you? I think he's going to do something that appears that he's working to defeat censorship, but I want you to consider, is breaking up Google, a monopoly like Google, is that a good thing? Is that ultimately a good thing? I don't think so. I mean, look at Standard Oil. If you break up a monopoly, or AT&T or whatever, when you break up a monopoly, the only thing that, like a monopoly like Google, the only thing that happens is they get broken up into these little satellites, and they end up cornering the market, and they have more control than they previously did. That's what would end up happening. And also, who's really behind Google are these Russian Jewish types. It's not really the SJWs, right? Like Steve Pachenik, who worked with was deeply involved with the so-called collapse of the Soviet Union, the fake collapse of the Soviet Union, right? The third game plan that's going on now, where they came back with this nationalistic flavor so they could be the good guy, sort of like Donald Trump. Brought in people like Larry Page, the Russian Jew, one of the main guys behind Google. So that's really the face of what's behind Google. Okay, so I wanted to get those opinions out there. Just playing into this left-right game and teaming up with these people just because they're censored is not the right move, in my opinion. Another example of where Donald Trump's going to be the good guy, and really shifting gears here into Iran, just wanted to get this opinion out here as well. Let me start off by saying this. I believe it was 2017. I made the claim that Eric Prince is working with SCL Group, that they're associated. And that was 8 months before there was any documentation available that proved that they are working together. Now, why do I say that? Well, number one, my opinions do turn out to be true a lot of times. So, also, I believe that's what's going to end up happening with Iran. Now, Iran is a loose end with the PNEC situation, the PNEC hit list. And it's I believe they're going to handle it. I believe that there's a deeper agenda going on with Iran as well, but that's not the point of this. I believe they're going to end up handling it like Egypt or Libya, where it's going to be a social media game. So Trump's going to keep hammering them with sanctions to the point where the people are just completely fed up with everything, and then they're going to get hit with the psychographics, right? The social media stuff. This is what you need to do for what your personal desires are for your country, right? And then all these people take to the streets. Then your Eric Prince type brings in the contractors, the paid provokers, and the people who really push this revolution. And then you get a revolution, and Israel gets what they want, and Donald Trump gets to be the good guy that fought against the Trotskyite neocon, Bolton and Sheldon Adelson. He's the good guy again, the good cop. But we know this is all part of a bigger agenda. So just wanted to get those opinions on the records. That's how I see Iran playing out. I find it frustrating that people get deeply involved with this nonlinear warfare in the media and push the idea that what's going to end up happening is that Trump, it's going to be like an Iraq full-fledged invasion, which I certainly don't think is the case. I certainly think handling it with contractors and psychographics is the most practical way to achieve what they want, especially with how educated people are these days. So I hope you guys like this. Share if you found the information important. Thumbs up. Yeah, and I'll see you guys soon.